they tore the Mullen House down, and then they brought in a bunch of housing units like they had down there on, do you remember the housing units on, where you turn down Texas Avenue to go down off of the Continental?
Yeah.
Well, they had houses in there, they called that Lower Slavonia down there. Then right across from the Winter Garden on South Montana Street, they had another bunch. This is where they brought in Kirby Crowley's armies from Alabama and Oklahoma, and they brought all these guys in here.
What years was that now?
That was before the '59 strike.
Now, who was Kirby Crowley's army?
He went all over the United States recruiting. He was one of the big wheels in the Anaconda Company. But that's what he was, that was his army.
He brought in workers, other workers.
Yeah, coal miners. That's another thing that didn't set very well around here in World War II. What? They brought in soldier miners from the coal mines in Pennsylvania and sent the Butte guys off to the war.
Yeah.
They brought in the colored guys.
Yeah. Well, would it be besides the black troops? Did they have other people like Italians, people like that?
Oh, they had Henry Rich, who was a friend of mine, belongs to the Arco Retirees. Him had worked with me on the Lady of the Rockies. He came. He's from Pennsylvania. But he only stayed here 6 months. He said, well, I'm going back to, this ain't nothing like the coal mines.
Yeah.
He went back in the Army, and he was a tanker. He would run tank for Patton. But Johnny Little, oh, there's a whole bunch of guys that still, they stayed here in Butte. Tex Guest was from Texas, and then Johnny Little was from Pennsylvania, and oh, there was a hell of.
They came in here as soldiers.
Soldiers.
And where would they live? Where'd they live when they were here?
I don't know where they. I wasn't here then.
Yeah.
Mylon Merkich lived on Center Street. He was another one from Pennsylvania. There was a whole bunch of them came here from. They were living in most of them were living in housing units that they built. Yeah. The company built for those people.
Well, was the Mullen House standing when you left for the war?
Yes, it was still there.
And then when you came home, was it gone, or was it still
No,
there?
they didn't tear it down after that. They tore it down, I can remember when they tore it down, but then they put those housing units here too.
Yeah.
And Gene Sullivan that lived over there, he used to call them the sheep sheds.
Okay.
But that's where they were all mostly Mexicans. And Johnny Gillette, you heard of Johnny Gillette?
Yes.
Well, he was our neighbor right there. He lived in my Uncle Pete Kennedy, he bought that house. Whenever they'd have trouble, the cops would come up, get him. Then he'd go over there and calm them down. There was Indians and Mexicans in there.
And they were working in the mines too?
Oh, yeah.
So this was all leading up to the '59 strike?
There's somebody, but then we had the '67 strike, you know.
And what happened there?
That was the 9-month strike. We were off for 9 months then.
What caused that strike?
Wages.
The pit was going in though.
Yeah, it was. That's when they had maintenance men. I worked a lot of shift maintenance, a lot of guys, you know. 59 strike I went, or 67 strike, 68, I went to work for Kylie Construction over in Twin Bridges, putting in the new road. Terry Schraps, who was in the drum corps with me, his daughter was Kylie's, or his wife was Kylie's daughter. So I worked for them. When they wanted to, when we put up all the conveyor systems for the, you know, to crush the rock on it, I got paid iron workers' wages. And when I wasn't, I paid $10 a week. I was a general laborer. So I worked over, I stayed in Twin Bridges from, go over on Monday morning and come back on.
During that strike, during the '67
Yeah.
strike? Yeah. Well, were there more Teamsters in town then for that strike? Were there, like the drivers in the pit and so forth?
Yeah, but the crafts still were more than it. We still had more craftsmen than they had Teamsters. We were different unions. See, the crafts belonged to one union. The Teamsters belonged to their own. They were separate bargaining. The crafts were, and then the electricians were separate bargaining.
So who had the strike? All of them, or some of them, or?
The only one strike that ever was pulled was the electricians pulled the strike by themselves, and they shut it all down.
When was that?
Oh hell, I don't know. There were so many strikes here between 46 and 68 that you couldn't believe it. myself and Eddie O'Brien, we fenced in that whole bulk oil plant on the way to East Helena in one of them strikes. That was a 54 strike. Come back here, went to work putting all the trusses in on the top of the Civic Center in a 54 strike. I did all the rigging on all the trusses on the runs across the top of the Civic Center. Then different strikes. But you couldn't believe the strikes we had here. We went back to work after that 59 strike. Or was it March? We had a strike in 67 too. We had a strike in 59. We were off 6 months, and I fell off that 12 air raise that time, and that was in March, and I fell in April or May, and I was off again. I wanted to get 2 months work, I think, and then I wound up with there's the picture of me with see me with the 2 arms and casts up there. And that was just where I fell down.
Do you remember when the parishes closed down?
The parish?
The parishes, the Catholic parishes.
You know, I was parish council president of St. Lawrence when they shut it down.
Okay, so now what was that process? When did the church start shutting down the parishes?
60, what was it, 70, in the 70s. St. Lawrence and St. Mary's, the only 2 debt-free parishes in the city of Butte get shut down. We had a meeting with the bishop downstairs in the basement of St. Mary's Church. I was representing St. Lawrence's Church, Parish Council. Father Sarsfield O'Sullivan was there. I asked the bishop, how come we don't have the priest? I said, why don't you get them where you got them before? Where? I said, Ireland. Oh no, they don't come no more. I said, I beg to differ with you. I said, but my brother-in-law was in the hospital in St. Vincent's in Billings, and there was 4 Irish priests because I talked to a couple of them. They were in the hospital at St. Vincent's. My brother-in-law dies. We go to Roundup to bury him, and the guy from Ireland, the Catholic priest from Ireland, said the Mass. And every time he spoke, the shamrocks were coming right out. And he said to me, well, he said, that bishop over there got connections. That's what he told me. Yeah.
Which bishop was this that you were talking to?
Eldon Curtis.
So St. Mary's and St. Lawrence got shut
well,
down.
St. Lawrence has got it first. And then we went down, and I was parish council president saying, that's when Father O'Neill came. And they said, we're going to shut that one down. We're going to go to St. Pat's or IC. It's up to you, your choices. So anyway, he said, well, we're on. He said, we got to shut her down. I said, well, I think we should have a big party for the closing of the church. Have the last Mass at St. Lawrence's. We'll rent the Blaine School on it, and we'll have a great big party. Okay, he says. It's up to you, John. Okay. So I said, well, we'll have to buy some booze. Booze? What are you going to do? You can't have a dry party. I said, this is, I don't know, what we're going to call it, a celebration or what, but it ain't going to be a wake, I'll tell you that. Okay. Well, Doug Darrow attended bar, we had it, and then we had a 50-50 drawing. He said, can you do that? Why can't you? Well, I guess you know what you're doing, John. I said, I guess so. Mary Dudley won 1/2 of the 50-50 drawing, and she got about $300 out of the 50-50 drawing. You couldn't believe the people we had up at St. Lawrence that night.
So what is the arrangement now for those? The church handed those parish structures over to somebody, or what happened?
They were going to tear down both of them.
Yeah.
That same St. Lawrence is that bunch of Bill Graham, and all the people from Walkable and that, they got together and they saved that church and they bought it off the bishop for $1. We took over St. Mary's, the Lady of the Rockies. In 1987, we took over St. Mary's, and we made it, well, Ed was there, and there was about 6 or 8 of us and our wives, and we scrubbed that whole place down, and we washed toilets and floors and everything else. Took the organ out of the choir loft. We offered to take it down because we knew what we were doing, but no, they had a guy come from Seattle, and he knew all about it, but you know what he did? He hired kids from Central. When he was gone, they didn't give a damn. They dropped the pipes off the second floor, or the wire loft and everything else. Well, when they went to put it back together out of St. John's, it didn't work too well. He always blamed the Lady Rockies crew. Well, I told him, I said, we didn't have nothing to do with that. I said, they hired kids from Central. When the boss wasn't there, they weren't worried about the organ.
So the organ's out of St. John's?
Yeah,
Okay.
but anyway, the thing is, that was, to this day, and nobody can figure it out yet, how come the two parishes that had no debts were the ones that,
Well, didn't a lot of priests and nuns come from those two parishes?
oh, the St. Mary's had the record. They had more nuns and priests come out of St. Mary's Parish than any place else in the state of Montana. Look at, they had the Gannons, 3 brothers were priests.
Well,
3 of them.
Well,
Father Tim O'Leary, my cousin, and his sister, oldest sister, Sister Helen Teresa. When she died, she was treasurer of the Sisters of Charity of Leavenworth. That was the way in the old Irish families. The oldest boy, the oldest girl, they go to the priesthood and the sisterhood. That was the way it was. But, oh, right there on Wilman Street, on East Wilman Street, right below the Stewart, there was the O'Donnells come out of there, and the Gannons come out of there. There was about 6 or 8 priests come out. Father Aylward come out of there. They all come off of that part, right in down below the Stewart there.
Huh.
Oh yeah, that was, but you know,
and then it was shut down because of a shortage of priests.
that's what he said.